Hello, my name is Tim McDaniel, owner and executive director for Section 8 Management Company, also known as Section 8 Managers. Section 8 Management Company offers housing placement, educational workshops, and consulting services for property owners, nonprofits, and government contracted agencies. Our unique tenant screening and housing placement system ensures owners of rental properties enjoy high occupancy, low turnover, dedicated landlord liaison representation, residential supportive services for tenants, and last but not least, the satisfaction of helping vulnerable households in need of fair housing and stable housing. Our customers are real estate developers and property owners who are willing to lease their vacant units to our subsidized housing programs, such as HUD VASH, Section 8 vouchers, Housing Choice vouchers, etc. Section 8 Management Company offers a variety of consulting and educational services by utilizing a community-oriented approach to outreaching to and educating owners of residential rental property about the subsidized housing market. So today I really wanted to kind of just go over the housing placement process. And so this is kind of like first introducing you to what Section 8 Management Company is, why we were started. We actually started 2018, in February 2018. So we're just eclipsed 1 year. And, we helped over 50 households since that time obtain affordable housing, in the greater Los Angeles area and also in other parts of the, in the state. But I want to go over the process. So just in getting started, our market research has shown that more than 2 million families are now using vouchers or subsidies to keep from becoming homeless across the nation. It's the government's largest program to help low-income families pay their rent. Usually the tenant pays to about 30 to 40% of their income in rent, and an organization or local public housing authority makes up the difference. So typically low-income families, after doing market research and market analysis, we found that, HUD funds only a third of eligible households. So there's like 5 million households that are funded right now through HUD for like housing choice vouchers. But there's actually 15 million people that qualify for it. So that just tells you the amount of need and the scarcity in terms of the subsidy support and why it's really critical for, for the landlords and for those that own property to be able to work with the programs that's issuing these subsidies to alleviate, the burden on the system. All right, so let's get into this housing placement. So before going into finding your housing, you really have to do an analysis. You have to take an inventory of what resources you have available. So we call this housing placement needs analysis. And so it's kind of like, what do you do? What are some tips to helping you find a place to rent? Okay. And so we actually developed a streamlined, or what can I say? We developed a kind of like a budget. We call it a take inventory budget when starting your housing placement process. So the first thing is take an inventory, right? So you budget first. You take an inventory of your income. So before you go out looking for a rental property, you got to be sure you know what you can afford, right? So are you looking for a 1-bedroom? Typically, if you have a subsidy in the LA, Orange County area, 1-bedroom range from about $1,400 to $1,700. So you want to know kind of like, what can you afford based off of the market? So that means you have to understand what's the market, what's the marketplace. And if you need some information about that, you can go to rentometer.com. That's a public utility website that's used by public utility companies. You can find out the market rent in your local area, and that's rentometer.com. Okay, so going back to taking inventory, so You take a budget of what you can afford, you fill out a budget worksheet, and we actually have a budget worksheet that you can use if you need one. Housing budget. So you want to fill out this budget worksheet to make sure you're covered, right? Because you don't want to waste anybody's time. Even though we all want affordable housing, right? When there's a vacancy, a landlord is really interested in getting that vacancy filled because, he has to pay for whatever expenses he has. And so, you don't want to waste your time not being rent ready, right? And we'll talk about what being rent ready is. And so, but the first part is to knowing what you can afford and knowing that you're eligible for the housing opportunity. All right, so remember that most places require a security deposit plus first and last month's rent before you can move in. So, or they will require a double security deposit in first month's rent. Either way, you're going to need whatever the rent amount is, times it by 3, and you will be good to go. Okay, so there are agencies that assist with up to a double security deposit. You can put that under your resource column, right? Places you can go to assist with that rental amount times 3 that you will need to have up front to make sure that, you are eligible and rent ready for these housing opportunities that come available. So as you do that, you want to determine, again, your rent ready. Is your credit good? Do you have enough cash? Do you have a good rental history? If not, then that's okay. But this is all a part of taking inventory. So, on the columns, on the blank page, right? And like I said, we have a budget worksheet, so don't get too tied up with, what to write on the paper and where to write it at. But you just want to make sure you take an inventory of all of these different pieces that you will need to know about through this process, because it is a process. Okay. So, is your credit good? Do you have enough cash? If you don't, right, we talk about places you can go that can assist you with the security deposit. Do you have good rental history? If not, you approve these before you start looking for a new place to live, right? So if you don't have any places you can go to maybe vouch for you with your rental history, there's agencies that will be willing to kind of work with you and be kind of like a reference on your rental application. And that's very important. And we'll go over the rental application. We actually have an entire session on how to complete a rental application. And so, and we have a lot of cool tips and tricks where you're pretty much guaranteed to be in the top realm of the options, and how you present your rental application. And so that's really important. Okay. So we also talk about researching the location where you want to move. You want to visit it several times before making a commitment. Okay. So we always ask about your housing preference, when we're starting the housing placement process, because, we don't want to look in an area that's not good for whatever reason, right? People have their different reasons on why areas are not good. So we want to ask those reasons, and we want to make sure we look in the areas that are preferred. Right. And if those areas that are preferred are not necessarily reasonable, we will kind of talk about that and hash that out in advance before going out in the market and being rejected. Right. Because we want to avoid rejection up front as much as possible. Right. So researching the location where you want to move and visit it several times before making a commitment. So you want to visit the area both by day and at night. So some areas look safe during the day, but not so much at night. You want to find out what you're getting into before you unload that moving truck, right? So a lot of people got storage and, they're really excited to unload it, stop paying that bill, right? But really, you really want to make sure that before you unload that truck, before you make that commitment to say this is where you want to, uproot your family, yourself, and really make that 1 year commitment minimum. Just visit it, take that extra day. If you work, let them know this is a priority for you. And that's how, you get better results. All right. So we want to determine the features we need in the rental. Parking. Do you have a car? How many parking spaces you need? Do you need a laundry facility? Do you need to live near a laundromat, right? What are your options? How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you need are important things to consider. Okay, all these things are very important up front because you may get you may get options that you may not think about, like we have like a studio. It's like a converted studio, pool house, and it has 2 restrooms, right? Not necessarily that the family said, I want a studio and 2 restrooms, but there was an opportunity because they checked, 2 restrooms is a priority for them. Bedrooms, they were like flexible about, but they needed 2 restrooms. And so this huge studio ended up being the perfect fit for them and their family. And so that's an example of why it's important to really look through the different features that are priority for your family. So we just kind of talked about features and taking the inventory of, what you have to bring to the table to become rent ready, right? To be a good applicant. There's like some rules of the game I actually wanted to give you guys. So this is like kind of like a bonus information, rules to the game about just in general, the mindset you need to going out and being effective in identifying the housing opportunity for yourself and for your family. And so I really got these rules from the game from one of my business mentors, for a business coach, right? He's actually my business mentor for the Section 8 management company, Dr. Lawrence. He's an awesome man. He owns several businesses, used to own a bank, and he gave us his rules of the game in terms of entrepreneurship. And so I'll customize it into the rules of the game for housing placement. So one is listen, right? Rule number 1, listen. Okay. So listening is a skill. And the reason it's a skill, especially in the housing placement process, is because you get nuggets. You get an advantage if you're able to listen. Like even if you were to go out to a open house, right? And you meet the manager and you speak with them about, okay, what does it take for, to be eligible for housing opportunity? They may tell you one thing, but if you listen, they may tell you that they have another opportunity coming up in a couple of weeks, right? So it's very important that you prioritize rule number 1 to this housing placement process. I know a lot of people bring a lot of information. You guys bring a lot of skills. A lot of you guys may even be homeowners, have been formerly homeowners, professionals in your career. But this is a new skill. Okay, so I'm your coach. I'm your housing placement coach, right? And so I want to help you be effective. And so I'm asking you to be effective in developing your listening skills. Okay, rule number 1, listen. Number 2, research. Okay, so we kind of talked about locations, features, taking inventory. And I'm not going to go over all the different rules, but I want to go over the top 3 because I think it's important. Okay, you want to research. After every process during the housing placement process, you want to research what happened. You want to research what they're telling you is true. You may get a landlord that say, hey, I charge $100, application fee. You want to research, hey, should I be paying $100? If anything doesn't feel right, sound right, research it. Okay, because for one, that's not legal, right? And there's tenants' rights, right? We have a whole nother session just on renters' rights, tenants' rights, and we can provide that to you at your request. Okay, but for now, you just want to make sure that throughout this process that you research everything, right? And find some people that you can really work with to kind of bounce information off that you may hear out while looking through your housing placement process. All right, number 3. Who's your customer? What's the product? So as far as housing placement process for you as a prospective tenant, your customer is the landlord, right? You're selling yourself to the landlord. So the landlord is the customer and you are the product, right? So think of yourself as the landlord. Think of yourself and how do you want to package yourself to be attractive? Why would the landlord want to buy you, instead of all the other applicants that's applying to their unit, right? So you don't have to be anybody you're not, right? Every landlord have a distinctive reason why they feel comfortable with people. So don't feel like you have to, be somebody you're not, right? Be honest up front, transparent, be who you are, right? But learn different techniques. And we got some information on how you can develop etiquette. So those are the top 3 things that I just kind of wanted to hit on before we went any further. Okay, so hopping right into the next point and taking inventory, let's talk about some options as far as, finding location. Well, actually, we're not going to get into that right now. So let's go into how to develop and practice your contact etiquette. Okay, so kind of what I was talking about in number 3, you're the product, right? You want to develop and practice your contact etiquette. First impressions are everything. Right? Do not miss, and it's okay if you're not like dressed or you don't have your hair done, but in terms of kind of like, how you're presenting your paperwork, it's very important, right? You want to make sure your paperwork is your first impression. Start number 1, your paperwork is your first impression in this process. Okay. And then when you make contact with them, that's kind of like a supplement. Then you can kind of tell them your story. So your story, what you guys talk about, is your second impression. So, do what you can, right, to have a good first impression. Be professional, friendly, and courteous. And you want to fill out the application completely in clear, easy to read writing. Okay, so that's kind of going back to why the paperwork is your first impression, is because if they can't read your application, I mean, you're kind of not even going to have a chance to be considered. Okay, now that's pretty much what I wanted to go over today. Is kind of like how to prep for the housing placement process, because a lot of people are so excited to just get into the part where, okay, can I go view some property? And that's not where it's at. That's not where you're going to be successful, right? You be successful in planning your attack, right? You want to see yourself in that place that you're interested in before you even go check it out, right? You want to have your rent ready package already lined up. You want to have a copy of your rental application, a copy of your ID, any proof of income. You want to have letters of references, and you want to have a completed rental application. I cannot emphasize that enough, that, completing each section in your applications, how that important that is. And if there's no information you cannot put in there, put not applicable, right? And then if you have some information to add on why you can't have that, part filled, then please, you add that in a separate page, right? Because less information is pretty much, it's not helpful during this process. Hey, so I want to thank you guys for listening to this presentation on the housing placement process, or at least how to prepare yourself to be effective in the housing placement process. You can contact us on our website, Facebook page at facebook.com/Section 8 Managers, or by email at housing@section8management.com. And you can contact me at any time as well, 661-312-8168. Thanks again for listening to our presentation. Feel free to contact us with your questions or concerns. Thank you so much.